Hidden over 5,200 feet from his target, the sniper steadied his breath, finger poised on the trigger. One breath out, and he fired. The .338 round hit its mark, striking a Mexican Army lieutenant in the cheek. The officer collapsed, pulled to safety by a fellow soldier. One down. But the Sicario sniper wouldn't get another shot. The moment he fired, a Mexican Army counter-sniper locked on. Over the thunderous roar of dozens of rifles and machine guns, the retort of the Remington MSR was barely audible. The Sicario saw a flash through his scope, and then his world turned to darkness. This is an all-out war, 800 of Mexico's deadliest Sicarios against the full force of the Mexican military. Who wins? What really happens when the cartel takes on the state? With the deployment of aerial surveillance aircraft into Mexican airspace, the message is clear: the U.S. is getting serious. These advanced platforms can intercept electronic communications and track individual vehicles across hundreds of square miles. It's a major signal that the White House is stepping up preparations for a potential war on Mexican drug cartels. The deployment of U.S. Special Forces, however, hints at how this war is going to play out. It's not going to be U.S. troops on the front line. It's going to be the Mexican military itself, assisted with U.S. capabilities and training. But if you think the cartels are going to be pushovers, you are seriously underestimating some of the most wealthy criminal organizations in the world. On the away team is an army of 800 Sicarios, the best and deadliest hitmen at the disposal of the unified cartel alliance. Is such an alliance realistic? Probably not. Even now, in the real world, some cartels are winding down operations and laying low in anticipation of the U.S. and Mexican military action against them. Others, like the Sinaloa cartel, are taking advantage of this to move into rival territory and claim it as their own. Getting the cartels to actually work together is probably going to be as difficult as herding cats. It might be easy to dismiss Sicarios as untrained gunmen, street punks whose only real qualification is a willingness to take human life. And most of the time, this is absolutely true. Most Sicarios are street kids addicted to a variety of drugs. They have no training past the basic function of a firearm and maybe some rudimentary marksman skills. They rely on ambushes at close range and usually employ handguns or fully automatic weapons, making accuracy a distant concern. Their only real aptitude is their willingness to kill without questioning orders, a pretty useful quality to have in a completely disposable foot soldier. Despite their legendary status, the truth is Sicarios are kind of terrible at putting up actual armed resistance. Whenever they get into an all-out firefight with the Mexican military, they tend to come out on the losing end. In 2010, Los Zetas Sicarios clashed with Mexican military forces in a series of gunfights. 10 cartel gunmen were killed, and massive stockpiles of weapons and vehicles were seized by the military. The remaining Sicarios either surrendered or fled the scene, while the military walked away with just 3 injured soldiers. However, cartel soldiers can show a great degree of sophistication, as shown at the Battle of Culiacan. During this disastrous operation, the Mexican military attempted to capture Ovidio Guzman, the son of the infamous and incarcerated El Chapo. Upon hearing news that federal police and army soldiers had arrested Ovidio, cartel forces across Culiacan immediately mobilized. Over 700 Sicarios took to the streets, but rather than act like a disorganized mob, they acted with precision. The Sinaloa cartel forces immediately set up roadblocks and isolated police and military forces from one another. They stole military vehicles and attacked police stations to prevent the authorities from organizing their forces. They even invaded local army barracks and kidnapped soldiers to hold as hostages. In the end, the Mexican president opted to release the younger Guzman in order to end the violence. What is surprising is the extreme level of coordination that the Sicarios showed. Rather than attacking military and police forces at random, they carried out an exceptionally well-planned retaliation that even involved a local prison riot, leading to the escape of 56 inmates. The question is, how were the Sicarios able to plan and carry out such a sophisticated response in such a short amount of time? And the answer will inform us how well our army of Sicarios is going to do versus our Mexican army forces. While the average Sicario is a street punk with no training and few skills, there are many high-level Sicarios and cartel officials who train squads of extremely proficient killers. These men weren't recruited from Mexico's slums. They were recruited straight out of the Mexican military itself, and on many occasions they were recruited straight from American Special Forces units. The United States Special Forces community has a very nasty cartel problem that it doesn't like talking about. A quick Google search will reveal the alarming frequency of arrests of Special Forces soldiers for things like drug trafficking. It comes as no surprise, though. U.S. Special Forces are among the best in the world, and some of the richest criminal organizations in the world sit right across the border from the U.S. It's easy to see how the promise of vast wealth is a powerful lure for many American Special Forces soldiers nearing the end of their enlistment. And for the cartels, their expertise and training is invaluable, both in fighting off rival cartels and the Mexican and American government. The Mexican military is equally rife, if not even more so, with servicemen who swap sides. High on the priority list for Mexican cartels is recruiting Special Forces soldiers who themselves receive training from U.S. Special Forces. These recruits become very high-ranking security officials within the cartel. Los Zetas, for example, was originally formed by deserters from Mexican Special Forces, and their tactics show it. They are known as one of the most violent cartels and carry out complex urban warfare and ambush operations. Meanwhile, both the Sinaloa and Jalisco New Generation Cartel have recruited American Special Forces to act as trainers or fill security roles. So, when we're talking about 800 of the cartel's best, we're not talking about amateurs. We're talking about a highly trained, combat-hardened force, one that's learned tactics and strategy from some of the world's most elite special forces. So how does the average Sicario stack up in terms of equipment? Most Sicarios don't carry much equipment besides a handgun and perhaps a rifle or shotgun. But elite Sicarios can be as well equipped as a regular infantry soldier in any industrialized military. For primary weapons, the cartels have options, but most will be equipped with AR-15s and M4 rifles, given their proximity to the United States and its domestic gun industry. The U.S. likes to complain a lot about cartel violence, but it's also the cartel's primary supplier of weapons. American firearms regularly make their way south of the border, and not through shady back alley deals, but often through perfectly legal purchases thanks to America's patchwork gun laws. Other popular weapons include the HK-G36 and FN SCAR, mostly used by elite Sicarios and imported thanks to the vast financial resources available to the cartels. Whatever the weapon, they'll often feature many modifications, such as drum magazines, cutting-edge optics to include thermal and night vision scopes, and full auto conversions. The incredibly lucrative drug trade means elite Sicarios have access to their pick of the litter when it comes to both firepower and equipment. As a backup weapon, any number of pistols will usually be carried, with a preference for Glock and Beretta firearms due to their availability in the U.S. The Taurus PT-92 is also popular due to its being produced in Brazil and widely adopted. Each foot soldier will come equipped with the same Level 3 or Level 4 ballistic plate body armor as in a modern military. These vests are often either directly purchased from manufacturers via shell companies or simply stolen from Mexican military or police supply depots. While not as widely available as in the military, high-ranking Sicarios will have access to this level of ballistic protection, putting them on par with a Mexican military unit. When it comes to support weapons, Sicarios make frequent use of M203 underbarrel grenade launchers, which can be attached to their M4s and AR-15s. They also have a range of standalone 40mm grenade launchers for indirect fire. For suppressive fire or taking on lightly armored targets, Sicario squads will utilize the M249 SAW. Thanks to the wide export of arms by the Soviet Union to any communist group willing to ask for them, Mexican cartels have access to some dated but still heavy firepower. PK machine guns are not uncommon, capable of taking out lightly armored vehicles. For better armored targets, RPG-7s are still widely available and in frequent use by the cartels. Further support is increasingly being provided by drones. Lessons learned in modern warfare have led to the increase in use of drones by militaries, insurgents, and terrorists around the world. Primarily used for recon, cartel members have used them as grenade drop platforms to provide a level of air support and carry out ambushes. At the moment, though, it's believed cartels lack access to the more powerful anti-vehicle and anti-armor attack drones. For armored support, Sicarios rely on NARCOTANKS, or monstruos. These are typically trucks that have been fitted out with a heavy weapon station and armored plating strong enough to resist small arms fire. In 2011, the Mexican military took on a convoy of narco-tanks operated by the Gulf Cartel. The military came out on top, with the armored trucks being destroyed in the clash. That same year, a raid on a cartel stronghold revealed a massive narco-tank equipped with steel armor and gun ports for up to 12 gunmen inside. A reinforced turret could be equipped with either a heavy machine gun or automatic grenade launcher. The front of the tank also sported a massive battering ram. It was the largest narco tank ever discovered, but it has served as a template for future offerings. Knowing what the Mexican military is up against, it's time for the main event: 800 of the cartel's deadliest Sicarios versus a battalion of Mexican infantry. In the heart of a cartel-controlled city in Mexico, a secret gathering of senior cartel leaders is underway. But this time the government is ready, not looking for a repeat disaster like at Culiacan. The military mobilizes a quick reaction force prepped and on standby for moments just like this. An entire battalion is deployed, complete with armored vehicles and airborne support. To tighten the noose, the Mexican government reaches out to its American counterparts, who quickly agree to provide intelligence support. Two 12-man Mexican Special Forces teams speed toward the target house. The convoy is a mix of pickup trucks and motorbikes. Trailing close behind is a platoon of Mexican infantry ready to provide backup if needed. Riding in new Cobra 4 armored multipurpose vehicles built for rapid response and heavy resistance. The raid is swift, clean, and executed flawlessly. But just before it's over, one cartel member manages to send out an alert. Cartel forces immediately mobilize. Sicarios are gathering into roughly platoon-sized elements. They're being coordinated by a central command post that remains mobile to evade detection. A command staff of senior Sicarios using trucks, cell phones, and radios to communicate. Unlike the chaos that unfolded at Culiacan, this time the Sicarios are already on their back foot. The moment they start sending out alarm calls, they're picked up by an orbiting U.S. Air Force Rivet Joint electronic warfare and reconnaissance aircraft. From miles above, American intelligence officers aren't just listening in, they're tracing the calls in real time, pinpointing the exact locations of cartel operatives trying to rally a response. As the Sicarios scramble to coordinate over the radios and cell phones, their comms suddenly fall silent, replaced by nothing but static. Mexican Air Force Black Hawks sweep across the city, dropping Special Forces teams to install and protect radio and cell phone jamming equipment. The Sicarios switch the cartel's own Shadow Network, a private system of cell broadcasters built to bypass public infrastructure and stay off the radar. However, the Rivet Joint aircraft easily tracks those communications, and the Mexican military has long ago learned of the existence of just such a network. Rather than destroy it, though, they decide to listen in, giving their troops some real-time intelligence on Sicario movements. Every move the Sicarios make is tracked from above by a fleet of Mexican or American recon drones. The gang members are attempting the same strategy they used in Culiacan, setting up roadblocks and targeting local police and fire stations. However, this time the deployment of airborne assets means that they're identified and targeted from above. As a group of Sicario vehicles rushes to assault a local police station, they are stalked from above by a Textron AT-6E Wolverine light attack fighter. The plane looks like something straight out of World War II, a propeller-driven plane with a large bulbous canopy for two pilots. But the plane is full of modern accoutrement and has quickly become a favorite amongst militaries around the world for drug enforcement and counterinsurgency operations. The piston engine is less fuel-hungry than a jet fighter, and the plane is overall much cheaper to both fly and maintain. Meanwhile, it's equipped with everything from precision-guided bombs and rockets and 50-caliber machine guns. Two Wolverines swoop out of the sky, strafing the convoy of Sicarios with machine gun fire. The vehicles and their occupants are instantly ripped to shreds. On the other side of the city, Sicarios scramble to set up a roadblock, burning vehicles, dragging debris, and positioning gunmen determined to trap the Mexican Special Forces capture team inside of the city. But overwhelmed, the roar of jet engines signals the plan is already falling apart. A second flight of Mexican Air Force Wolverines dives out of the sky, unleashing 500-pound bombs with pinpoint accuracy. The impact is thunderous, flames and debris erupt into the air as the roadblock is obliterated in seconds. But the Mexican extraction team has decided to stay in the city and let help come to them. Inside the city, 24 Mexican Special Forces soldiers and 30 infantry dig in, transforming a block of buildings into a fortress. M240s and 249s are mounted at key vantage points, fortifying their positions. The Sicarios respond by rushing a group of NARCOTANKS to try to break through the defenses. The armored vehicles are reinforced with half-inch steel plating and armed with heavy machine gun turrets. A Mexican weapons platoon equipped with precision mortars responds to urgent fire support requests from the capture team and their security element. Using real-time drone video feeds, two platoons begin walking in mortar rounds, every blast dialed in with deadly accuracy. Mortar rounds rain down around the NARCOTANKS, damaging their wheels. Shrapnel rips through steel, and two of the armored vehicles take direct hits, erupting into towering infernos that light up the city block. But the rest of the tanks keep advancing even if the Sicarios on foot have to take cover from the storm of mortars raining down on them. The city's becoming a no-holds-barred battlefield as the Sicarios take to house fighting against the superior armed Mexican military. With air support busy elsewhere, the NARCOTANKS are able to advance. Coming to the rescue of the capture team, however, is a detachment of AMX-13 armored personnel carriers. The NARCOTANKS' heaviest armament are turret-mounted 50-caliber machine guns, which are frightful against lightly armored vehicles. Charging straight toward the narco tanks, the AMX's front armor shrugs off the cartel's 50 caliber fire. Then the real response begins. The AMX-13s open up with their 20mm cannons, and in seconds the narco tanks are torn apart. Suddenly a volley of RPG-7s opens up on the armored vehicles, bringing their advance to a halt. The AMXs are older designs, and while the front armor can resist the RPGs, the crews can't resist taking concentrated fire. The Sicarios move into surrounding buildings, trying to get a side angle or top-down shot onto the armored vehicles. Practicing good urban warfare discipline, the AMXs pull back and allow Mexican infantry on foot to catch up and begin clearing the buildings along the path to the objective. The Mexican military has set up containment around the city, trapping the Sicarios inside. However, the capture element itself is still trapped in the city. To neutralize the Sicarios and rescue the capture element, the military begins a three-pronged assault from the south, the northeast, and the southwest, the main avenues of approach. The Sicarios no longer attempt to set up roadblocks. The tactic is proving too costly against Mexican air power. Instead, they try to set up ambushes along the main streets, utilizing a variety of IEDs. Overhead surveillance catches the Sicario teams in the act of planting their IEDs, and they are eliminated with the use of armed drones. Mexico's fleet of Elbit Hermes 900 surveillance drones are designed for long endurance and reconnaissance, but are also capable of carrying precision weapons. Other IEDs never even get the chance to explode. Their signals cut off completely by powerful jamming equipment mounted on Mexican military vehicles. The Sicarios try everything: radio triggers, cell phone detonators, but it's all in vain. The Mexican troops move past the traps unharmed. The Sicarios are slowly being squeezed by the three-way push into the city. The problem is, they're no longer facing individual elements of the Mexican military. They're up against a well-coordinated force that's practicing all-domain warfare. The Sicarios are simply outmatched and incapable of meeting all the capabilities that the Mexican military is bringing across the air, ground, and cyber domains against them. While their communications are jammed, the Mexican military forces are free to use their own radios for coordination. Well-trained, the Sicarios practice personal initiative on a small unit level. Their history of working as a decentralized force helps them in a scenario where their communications with command elements are impossible or unreliable. However, the Sicarios are unable to coordinate a unified response to the Mexican military's movements. This allows the military to slowly but surely split them apart and corral them into sections of the city. To make matters worse, the Americans are hijacking Sicario communications. The Mexican military, in coordination with the Americans, sporadically lift their radio and cell jamming. This allows Sicario units to communicate, but it also allows American electronic warfare specialists using AI to send out false orders. AI works in real time to analyze the voices of identified Sicario commanders and then replicate them to issue fake orders. The orders in turn lead Sicario units into Mexican military ambushes or work to sow confusion and doubt. Orders are so unreliable now that it's just as destructive as if all comms were still being actively jammed. The force of NARCOTANKS makes one last attempt to break the defensive perimeter surrounding the capture house. They practice good tactics, supported by ground infantry who thwart military anti-tank teams. Their own anti-tank teams equipped with RPG-7s work to keep Mexican armored vehicles at bay. The Mexican Special Forces capture team responds with a barrage of Carl Gustaf M2 recoilless rifle fire. Expecting to meet the narco-tank threat, the Special Forces team has brought along with it a number of M2 rifles. It's the same anti-tank and anti-bunker weapon used by the US military, along with many others around the world. With both anti-tank and anti-bunker rounds, the M2 makes short work of narco-tanks that stray too close, while destroying any fortified position the Sicarios try to establish. The only break in the fighting the Sicarios get is when the Mexican air support has to return for rearmament, a process that can take up to an hour. Mexican forces can still call on support from their weapons platoons, however, stationed just outside the city and well within range of their mortars. It has a high collateral damage cost to civilian infrastructure, but the entire city is effectively a war zone. As night falls, the advantage swings to the Mexican military even further. While the Sicario teams all use night vision, the Mexican military can access aerial recon drones with thermal and night vision. This allows the military to track Sicario movements. U.S. Rivet Joint aircraft can also use the millimeter wave radar to identify and track Sicario squads and vehicles as they move across the city. The Mexican military adopts a reactive posture to minimize the effectiveness of the Sicario's night vision. Meanwhile, special forces equipped with night vision carry out probing attacks against the cartel members. In conjunction with drones overhead, Multiple attempts by the Sicarios to break out of their encirclements fail over the course of the night. As the sun rises, the last of the narco tanks lies in a smoldering wreck. The Mexican military has taken 20% casualties, with only half of them fatalities. The Sicarios, meanwhile, have taken over 50% casualties, most of them fatal. It's become clear for surviving Sicarios that they are simply outmatched. Individually, they may be better equipped and likely better trained than the average Mexican army soldier, but the Mexican army is bringing multi-domain capabilities to the fight that they simply cannot match. Unable to communicate and outmaneuver the military, the Sicarios have one final choice to make: fight and die to the last man, or surrender. Who do you think would come out on top in a battle this intense? 800 Sicarios, or the full might of the Mexican military? Are the cartels becoming too powerful, or is the government finally turning the tide? Drop your thoughts below. Now go watch American military plan to destroy the cartel terrorists, or click this other video instead.